Continuing in our series about the coming of the Lord, and are we in the end of days? I want to talk to you about the preparation of the bride. And are you the bride of Christ? Are you ready for the coming of the Lord? Matthew 25 is one of my favorite stories. And if you've ever been in our services or been in School of Worship with me, I've told this so many times because it speaks to me personally. In Matthew 25, it's a story about 10 virgins. It starts out with, then the kingdom of heaven will be like 10 virgins. So it starts out, it's not talking about the world. The moment it says then the kingdom of heaven, it's not talking about the world. It's talking about what we would call the church, the true church, what we would call the people that are saved, the people that are born again, the people that are going to heaven. Then the kingdom of heaven will be like 10 virgins who took their lamps and went to meet the bridegroom. 5 of them were foolish, thoughtless, silly, and careless, and 5 were wise, farsighted, practical, and sensible. For when the foolish took their lamps, they did not take any extra oil with them, but the wise took flasks, F-L-A-S-K-S, flasks of oil along with their lamps. Now while the bridegroom was delayed, they all began to nod off, and they fell asleep. But at midnight there was a shout, "Look, the bridegroom is coming, go out to meet him." Then all of those virgins got up and put their own lamps in order, trimmed the wicks, and added oil and lit them. But the foolish virgins said to the wise, "Give us some of your oil, because our lamps are going out." But the wise replied, "No, otherwise there will not be enough for us and for you too. Go instead to the dealers and buy oil for yourselves." But while they were going away to buy oil, the bridegroom came, and those who were ready went in with him to the wedding feast, and the door was shut and locked. Later the others also came and said, "Lord, Lord, open the door for us." But he replied, "I assure you and most solemnly say to you, I do not know you. We have no relationship. Therefore, be on the alert, be prepared and ready, for you do not know the day nor the hour when the Son of Man will come." Amazing story, isn't it? One of my favorites. But some very key words are in these verses that if you miss them, you will automatically think the church and the world. This is not talking about the church and the world. This is talking about the church only. For they were virgins waiting for the bridegroom. Jesus is only coming for those who are waiting for him. He's not coming for those who are just living their lives and doing whatever they want to, thinking they got to get out of hell free card because at some point in their lives, their grandma prayed for them and they walked the aisle and said a sinner's prayer and yet still living like the world. That's not who this is. These virgins were waiting for him, and they took their lamps and they went to meet the bridegroom. While they went, now there's 10 of them. 10 is the number for law, testimony, and responsibility in ancient Hebrew. Law, legal, married. Testimony, they're giving their testimony of who they are. And responsibility. Covenant is responsibility. It takes issue and work against yourself. You take issue with yourself to become one with him. And so here we have 5 of them. 5 is the number for grace. 5 that are ready, and 5 that were ready, but by the time he finally came. And that's where we are right now. So many things have happened, even in my adult life, where we've wondered. 9/11 happened, and people were like, okay, is Jesus coming? And they woke up, and they got ready, and then all of a sudden they went back to sleep again. The banks collapsed in 08, and people said, is Jesus coming? And they woke up, and other things have happened throughout history where people think Jesus is coming, and some wake up, and then others go back to sleep. And the truth is, if you read this story, all 10 were asleep. When the shout came, all 10 were asleep. And you know what? We can pretty much say that the whole church has been asleep for a long time. And here, the shout happens, "Look, the bridegroom is coming. Go out to meet him." And all 10 get up. All 10 have to add oil to their lamps. All 10 have to trim their wicks. Now, you probably don't have never even seen a lamp like this, but I grew up in the country in Mississippi, and we had these oil lamps. And if you don't trim the wick, it just creates so much smoke. And you can't even really see the light, for the smoke gets all up inside the lamp and you can't see, so you have to trim the wick. And you know what? That's our life. Are we trimming the wick in our life? Or are we just producing a whole lot of smoke to where we can't even see? And our light is so dim because the light is trying to shine through a bunch of smoke. It's important that we keep our wicks trimmed. It's important that we keep enough oil in the lamps. It says here, they put their lamps in order, they trimmed their wicks, and they added oil. And then, here's the key, they lit them. Do you realize that the church in itself at this season, our lamps are really not lit? Not yet. Our wicks have not been trimmed, and we certainly don't have enough oil. Now, those that were prepared, they had flasks of oil extra. They were ready to go, so out they go. And the 5 that didn't have enough oil, it didn't say they didn't have any oil. It said they didn't have enough oil. That's the key. You may have oil. Oil is representative of the Holy Spirit and the power of the Holy Spirit and being filled with the Spirit. Jesus said in John 14, it's so wonderful, he said, that I have to go away, necessary that I go away. Why is it wonderful? Because I'm going to send you the Holy Spirit. And he goes on and he says there in one verse, he says to the disciples, you have the Holy Spirit with you, but soon he will be in you. And that's the difference in having oil and having enough oil. We need the oil of the Holy Spirit being reproduced in us every day, throughout the day. Otherwise, we run out of oil, and it becomes very difficult to keep that oil going if you don't have a never-ending supply coming up from within you of the Holy Spirit inside of you. So, they had oil, but they didn't have enough. So they said to the 5, Grace, that had more than enough, give us some of yours. And their answer is amazing. They said, no, otherwise there won't be enough for us and for you too. Go instead to the dealer and buy. Now here's the thing. Right now we're living in a season and a time where the oil of the Holy Spirit is given freely. You can have more than enough. You can be filled with His presence and be filled with the oil of His presence right now. But the truth is, there will come a time when you don't take advantage of a moment, of a season, one we're in right now, where the oil is being freely given. If you don't take advantage of that, when the time comes and you don't have enough and the bridegroom is coming, if you don't have enough, it's going to cost you. And it's going to not just cost you monetarily, it's going to cost you time. They had to go find a dealer. They had to go buy it. They had to pay for what has been freely given from heaven. God is giving us more than enough. But if you don't take it in the right time, when you don't take it in the right time, it will cost you later. And so now, they go buy oil, but while they're going to get more oil, the bridegroom comes and he takes the 5 that are ready and he goes in, and it says they go into the wedding feast. That's what we would call in our day and age the reception. Here's a question I want you to understand, and here is an answer I want to give you. If they're going to the reception, when was the wedding? Let me just explain to you something. In Jewish culture, which the Bible is written in Jewish culture, the moment you become betrothed, you are legally wed. The bridegroom comes and takes the bride, and they consummate in the natural what's already happened legally and spiritually. And here's the truth about most people who say they love God. They are not married to the bridegroom yet, and yet He's only coming for those who have already legally and spiritually married Him and become one with Him and taken His name. See, when I married Harry Salem, I stopped being Cheryl Pruitt and I became Mrs. Harry Salem. I took his name. When you marry the Christ, you take His name and you become one with Him. He comes and He gets you and He takes you into the reception. And it says here the door was shut and locked. Later, the 5 came back. Now they have enough oil, and they're knocking on the door. Lord, Lord, open the door for us. Open the door. Now, here's what I want you to understand. Jesus must have been standing right on the door, right on it. But it's shut now. Sometimes, if we're not careful, we are this close to being right. This close to being in the right side, on the right side of the door. But Jesus, I can just see him with his head leaned up against the door, and as they knocked, he felt the reverberation of the knock, of the desperate cry, open the door, open the door. But the door was shut, and it's locked. And Jesus said to them, I assure you, and most solemnly say to you, I don't know, K-N-O-W, that's a term in the Hebrew and now in the Greek that means intimacy. I don't intimately know you. We're not one. I don't know you. I don't know you. We're not in right relationship. We have no relationship, the Greek says. Jesus, we are in a season when we need to understand you knowing Jesus is not good enough. He needs to know you. He didn't say, you don't know me. They knew him. They had lived their lives as the bride, but they didn't know him the way he needed them to know him, in an intimate relationship, not a religious way, but a relationship way. And when it came down to it, that door was shut and they were separated by the width of a door. And he said, I don't know you. How can you be sure you're the bride? Make sure you're intimate with him. Make sure he knows you, not just you know him. I hope you're enjoying this season that we're teaching on preparation of the bride. Hope you're enjoying this time of, is this the last days? The coming of the Lord, because we are in that season right now. I hope you're enjoying these videos, and if you are, please understand that we as a ministry are off the road right now, and it would be such a great help to us if you subscribe below, and not just watch our videos, but subscribe also, and give us a thumbs up, maybe give some comments about what you're liking, or maybe you'd like us to cover some other topics. Go to our website, salemfamilyministries.org. You can become a partner there. You can give a one-time donation. You can order some videos, some music projects that we have, download them or order the CDs, some of our books. We have over 40 books, so we'd love to hear from you. We'd love for you to be a part of our ministry. But most of all, I just want you to know it's time to ask yourself this question. Are you ready for his coming? And are you prepared to be his bride? Until next time, so enjoy my time with you.